Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualizer channel. Today we'll continue our lab, the Marvel Studio lab. This is the video number 2. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been talking about a new series of videos. Okay, it will discuss different IT concepts, as I said, and it's all discussed through a story. Okay, this story will be in the Marvel universe. Okay, and we have discussed the storyline of this lab. So the storyline that Tony Stark needs to make a new headquarters for the Avengers, and he needs to make the IT infrastructure or build the IT infrastructure, which includes a new domain, which will be a domain called marvel.local. And we have discussed the different things concerning the making of this domain and its different options. We will have a domain controller, we will have DHCP, and we discussed all of this in the lab scenario. So the storyline that Tony Stark needs to make a new headquarters for the Avengers, and he needs to construct or build the IT infrastructure, includes making new domain. And then the story continues, and we have discussed the lab scenario, and then we have said that all of the Active Directory objects, computers, users, all of these are created using PowerShell scripts and CSV files. And we will use in this lab or this scenario, we'll use the hypervisor, or use the program which is called VMware Network or VMware Workstation Pro. This is the program that we will use. So this is Vmware Workstation Pro. It's a hypervisor, or it's a program that we can construct or build virtual machines in it, and it's by far the best virtual platform that I have used. So there is the Hyper-V, there is the Vmware Workstation Pro, there is Virtualbox. In order, the best one of them is the VMware Workstation Pro, and we will see during working with this program how it has a lot of features and a lot of facilities that we can use, and it's very easy to use. Okay, the second option to use, or the second program that can use, it's the Virtualbox. The Virtualbox, it's a free program, and it contains all of the features in the VMware Workstation Pro. By the way, VMware Workstation Pro, it's licensed one, it's not free. Okay, but it is the best you can use because it contains all of the features that make the virtualization process and creating of virtual machines and working with them very easy. The second one is the Virtualbox. The Virtualbox, it's very similar to the VMware Workstation Pro, and it contains all of the features in VMware Workstation Pro, but the graphical interface is a little bit not so polished like this one, and it is not a little bit easy to deal with. Okay, it's easy enough, but not easy enough like the VMware Workstation Pro. So the second virtual platform we can use is the Virtualbox, and the last one is the Hyper-V. The Hyper-V, it's a free one. It is already included with every or in certain types of Windows operating system, like Windows 10 Enterprise and Windows 10 Pro, I think, or Professional. It is the least one of them. It contains some features, but it's not easy at all to deal with, and it is missed, or it is missing a lot of features that it is used in the VMware Workstation Pro and Virtualbox. So we will use in this lab the VMware Workstation Pro 15.5. This is newest one. Okay, but we will use in the lab VMware Workstation Pro 15.5. we'll use it to create our virtual machines and work with our lab entirely. So we will use the Hyper-V so we will use the VMware Workstation Pro 15.5. The operating system on the servers will be Windows Server Data Center 2019, and as for the workstations that will join the domain, it will use Windows 10 LTSC 2019. We have discussed before that Windows 10 LTSC 2019 contains a lot of features that makes it the more stable system that you can use. I will discuss it later when we go and install this system. I will discuss in details what is the benefits of using this system and why specifically Windows 10 LTSC. And I said before, we will create all of the Active Directory groups, computers, and all of the objects will be creating using PowerShell scripts. Okay, and as for all of the scripts that I use in this lab, and the diagrams and the presentations, all of this will be included in a Google Drive link in the description section in every video in my playlist. Okay, not only the Marvel Studio playlist, but all of the playlist I have in my channel, all will contain under the description section each video a Google Drive link that contains all of the scripts I use. Okay, so this is what we have discussed in the previous video. In this video we will begin working with the Hyper-V VM Workstation, working with the VM Workstation Pro. But before that I need to show you a little bit of a graph here. So here we will have a little bit of a scenario here. What is our scenario? This is my laptop, and this is its name, desktop TLM-M1QH, and I have an IP of 192.168.1.2. and then we will have our hypervisor, or the program that will create virtual machines in it, that will be VM Workstation Pro 15.5. Inside this program we will create, or this is our VM Workstation Pro virtual environment. So we have a virtual environment represented by a circle, and then we will create a domain and we will call it marvel.local, and then we will create our first virtual machine, which will be named DC Marvel 01. Okay, and it will contain some features or some roles. First we will give it an IP address of 192.168.1.20, and this virtual machine will be a domain controller and a DNS. So its primary DNS will be 192.168.20, and it will have a secondary DNS, which will be our second virtual machine that will act as a domain controller or additional domain controller and secondary DNS. So the alternative DNS will be 192.168.1.21. This virtual machine will have Active Directory, DNS, Wins, Group Policy Management, and DHCP. Okay, this is the first virtual machine. As for the second virtual machine, it will be named DC Marvel 02. Okay, it will contain also a couple of things. It will have an IP address of 192.168.1.21, and the primary DNS will be the DNS of the first domain controller, which is 192.168.1. The primary domain DNS will be the DNS of the additional domain controller. So this will be an additional domain controller and the DNS. So its primary DNS will be itself, and then its alternative DNS will be the first domain controller DNS. This also will contain Active Directory, DNS, Wins, Group Policy Management, DHCP. So we have a DHCP and a DHCP failover, and we'll have a file server, and we'll have also WSOS. I forgot to type it here. So we'll have additional domain controller, we'll have additional DNS, additional Wins, additional DHCP or failover DHCP, and the file server, and a WSOS. Okay, so this is all in the second virtual machine, and both of them are connected to a virtual network. Okay, which is this virtual network we will use the subnet, or it will be its IP addresses will be within the subnet of 192.168.1.0. This is the subnet, and the gateway for the Ethernet will be 192.168.1.2. Okay, so in the Hyper-V we will create something called virtual network, and we will decide in this virtual network what is the subnet that we will use for this virtual network, and what is the gateway to get to the internet. And if you have a little bit of a notice, you notice that the gateway it's 192.168.2.1, which is the IP of my laptop. So here these two virtual machines will be connected. Okay, just a moment, this is two virtual machines. It will be connected to this virtual network. Okay, so these two are on the same virtual network, and my laptop is on the same virtual network, and my laptop is considered as a gateway. Okay, so this type of setting to this virtual network in the Hyper-V, it's called netting. Okay, so my laptop is considered to be the router for these two virtual machines, so it is their way to get to the internet. So through this virtual network, these two can talk to each other. So these two servers are on the same network, so they can communicate with each other, and me as a laptop I can communicate with them as well, because I have IP from the same range that they have. Okay, so it's 120 and 121 and 12, and I am considered as a router or a gateway to get out to the internet. So we have a couple of types of the virtual networks that we can create in the Vmware Workstation Pro. I will discuss them one by one. Okay, so this is briefly what we will do in this lab. So let's see what type of network or virtual networks we can create in the in the virtual or the Vmware Workstation Pro. We have three kinds. So here we have something called host only. So this is a type of virtual network. What does that mean? That the VM will be assigned an IP address, but it is only accessible by the box VM is running on. So this means that the virtual machines can communicate with each other and with my host. This is the first type, which is called host only. I will show you all of this. We can create it. And then we have something called NAT. Just like your home network with a wireless router, the VM will be assigned a separate subnet. For example, here in our example we have 192.168.6.1. okay, this is okay. If I can show you here of the graph, here my IP is 192.168.1.2. okay, my router, okay, so here I am considered to be the router or the gateway for these virtual machines, but actually here my laptop, it is taking an IP address from another or from a router that I am considered him to be my gateway. So the real gateway, it's 192.168.1.1. so here I am considered to be the gateway for them, okay, and I am getting my gateway from my router, which is 192.168.1.1. so here this is briefly discussed here, or it is saying here that we will have let's consider that my router it's 192.168.1.1. okay, this is my router, and my host will be 192.168.1.2. okay, so my laptop it's 192.68.1.2 and my router is 192.68.1.1. so here you will be assigned a separate subnet, okay, like this one is your host computer, okay, and your VM will be so, okay, so my laptop and my virtual machines will be on the same subnet, okay, and they will be the virtual machine will be redirected to me as the router, okay, and I will be if I want to get out, I'll be redirected to my router to get out, okay. So this is called NATing, or this is the one that we are using here. So here these two will if they get to the internet, you need to go to my IP or to go to my laptop, and then my laptop will redirect them to the router that I am getting, or to my home DSL router that I can get to the internet through. So I am just a middleman between them, okay. So this is the NAT option, and then we have the last one, which is a bridge. It will share your network card with the virtual machine. So for example, if we have it as bridged or as bridge, for example, my host IP will be 172.16.20.45, then my virtual machine will take, for example, 50. So we are both on the same subnet, and we are sharing the same network adapter. So the first one, it is host only, so the virtual machines will be assigned one IP. It is only accessible by the box VM running on. So this is the host. The NAT will be just like your home router with a wireless router. The VM will be assigned in a separate subnet, like this one is your host computer, and the VM will be like this. Then your VM can access outside network like your host. This is referring to my router, okay, or my home DSL router. So my IP and the VM IP, if they want to get to the internet, they need to talk to the router, okay, but the VM will not talk to the router directly. It will talk to my host computer, and then my host computer will redirect her to the router, okay. The new VM can access outside network like your host, but no outside access to your VM directly. It is protected. So here he is using my host computer as the middleman between him and the internet. And the last one is the bridged. Your VM will be on the same network as your host. If your host is this IP address, then your VM will be this IP address. It can be accessed by all computers on your host network, so you can access all of the VMs, okay. all of the VMs or all of the IP in the same range. Okay, so this is basically the three types. Okay, how we will create it, let me show you all. So we will begin creating this one. So we'll go to our VMware Workstation Pro, go to the edit and then virtual network preferences. Okay, and then if we need to, this is our two created. One is the host one, so it is already created and it is on the range of 192.168.80.0. this is a host only. And then we have a NAT. Okay, we have a NAT one which is configured with this subnet. Okay, let's discuss, or let's see the different options here. So for example, if you go to the here, the bridged one, so we have something called bridged. This is the first type, connect VM directly to the external internet. So he is sharing my network adapter with the virtual machine. This is the first one, which is bridged. Okay, we can see here that there is nothing checked except this option. If we see automatic setting, all of these are setting. It's already choosing all of my network adapters, so it's sharing my internet connection with the VM and it's selecting which network card that's getting to the internet so it can share it with my virtual machine. So this is the first one. The second one, it's a host only. So here you connect a host virtual adapter to this network. So here, this is a subnet that will be shared between the virtual machines. Okay, and as they will take IP addresses from this range. Okay, and here you can choose the option to make the VMware Workstation Pro distribute IP addresses. Okay, it can act as a DHCP. Okay, but here we will not do this. I don't need it to be a DHCP. So because I will create a DHCP in my virtual environment, so here we will tell him it's host only. So we will choose connect a host to the virtual adapter. So any virtual machine connected to this network, okay, it will communicate with each other. For example, here I have my virtual machine will have or will be connected to VMnet1. So if I am on the same network, I can communicate with it. Okay, so it is host only, and this is the option. I will uncheck it because I don't need it to use the DHCP. This is the second type. And then the last type, it is the NAT. Okay, which will get it to the internet. By the way, this will not get it to the internet. So this network host and guest can communicate with each other. Okay, but they cannot get to the internet. For the bridged, it can get to the internet. As for the NAT, the host and the guest can communicate with each other, but they can't communicate with each other and they can get to the internet. Here also I don't need it to be a DHCP. Here I will make a DHCP and then I will give it the gateway, which is my IP of my host, so it can get it to the internet. I will show you all when this comes, but this is briefly the options. If you tell him apply and OK, for example, if you need to create a new one, so here this is the netting. So here this is the subnet, the network, and the gateway, which is the IP of my laptop. Okay, you can tell him the DNS if you need to add DNS servers. For example, if you need to add Google or something, anyway, it will auto detect available DNS servers from your ISP provider. Okay, so this is it. We can add a network. So these are the three that I use. You can tell him to add a network, and then you can choose, for example, maybe network 9 here. Tell him OK. Here I can use it. I can choose if I need it to be a host only. VMs internally, the VMs can connect internally in a private network, so the VMs can talk to each other internally and with the host, or they can be in a NAT. They can share the host IP address, okay, and get to the internet, or bridge it, connect VM directly to the external internet. Okay, so it will get to the internet here, but through me, through the host. In the bridge, it will get to the internet directly without me as a middleman. Okay, so this is the three types you can choose, and then you can decide here the subnet and the subnet mask, the option of local server. Here I put number 2, so for example let's make it 2. Okay, and we will make it as a host only. So let's make it as a NAT or host only, and then him apply and okay. So here it's making the host only, it's installing an adapter. Okay, and then this is the network. So after making the network, we begin creating the virtual machines. So the first step before creating virtual machines in the VMware Workstation Pro is to create the network. Okay, so here we have what we have done here. Just a moment. Here I need to make something. Here I will make it. So let's go there. Here let's go to the VM9 and tell him change. We will make it 1, so make it the same as the scenario. Here we will go there. Here we will go to the host only, and then we tell him it's 1. Okay, so this will be the network. Okay, and I need it to be a NAT. Okay, so here, okay, so we'll make it as host only. Okay, apply and okay. So let's consider this guys to be the 1. So it's not a host. I will make this VM8 to be 192.1.0. okay, so I think let's go to change it here. Let's for example make it 2. Okay, apply, and then let's make the NAT here to be 1. Okay, so we will use this type. We will use VM8. Here we will make it 1. Okay, and apply. Okay, so this is it. Here I will be 1 2. So here this is my gateway, or this is the IP of my virtual my host. Okay, so I can show you all here. For example, what is the IP of me? So let's close this and let's go here and type cmd ipconfig. Sorry guys, ipconfig /all. So here you can see that my IP address will be, I have a lot of things, but here this is Wi-Fi LAN adapter. Here I will be 6. Okay, but I think it's 2. Anyway, the default gateway, here I am on the same network. Anyway, we will see how this is done, but let's begin of the video. Let me show you all how much. Okay, so let's begin working with our scenario. So here we will begin creating a virtual machine, a new virtual machine, and connect it to VM network 8. Just a moment here, just I need to show you all something. Here there is an option called easy install. Okay, so you tell him to create a virtual machine. He tells you what is the type of system you need to install on it and provide the DVD that contains the system. So here when you tell him or insert the ISO that contains the operating system, he detects it. So here he says that he detected Windows Server 2012 R2. So he will install this system using an option that Vmware Workstation Pro provides called Easy Install. Easy Install, it will install the operating system very quickly. It will not give you the option, or it will not give you the right to define the hard disk and partition it, and he will not give you the option to name the virtual machine, or to name the operating system, or to name, sorry, the name. It will not give you the option to rename the computer, or to give a name to the computer during the installation. So this is a easy and quick installation type. I will not use it because I need to choose the hard disk and choose how much partitions I will do on it, and define every partition in this virtual machine. So we will tell him I will install the operating system later, and then we will insert the DVD. But let me show you all something called easy install. So VM easy install. Okay, so the easy install, let's see here. Okay, when you use easy install, you usually do not need to provide information during guest operating system installation. If you did not provide all of the easy information in the new virtual machine wizard, you might be prompted for a product key, username or password. Also, if the guest operating system installation consists of multiple disks or ISO images, the installer might prompt it for your next disk. So it will only ask for a product key, username or password, but it will not ask you for anything else. So it will only ask for a product key, password or username, okay, but it will not give you the option to choose the partitions, how to partition your hard disk of this virtual machine. It will not give you this facility, so we will use the other option. Let's choose it. So here we will choose our DVD. So tell him I will install operating system later, and then I'll tell him I need to install Windows 2000 Server 2019. It is not included in this VMware Workstation Pro version, but you can tell him to install Windows Server 2016, and it is the same as Windows Server 2019. And here it tells you where you need to create this virtual machine in a certain location. So this is my location, and I have named it already. I will make a folder in this path with the name of my virtual machine, and I will name my virtual machine DC Marvel 01. Okay, so we'll do this. Next, and then I will give it a hard disk of 70 gigabytes, and here it split the virtual disk, or the disk for this virtual machine split it to multiple files. Splitting the disk, it is easier to remove the virtual machine to another computer, but may reduce performance with very large disk. Okay, so this is will make splitting of the hard disk to simple files or multiple files will make it easier to remove the virtual machine if you consider to remove the virtual machine later. So but or to remove the virtual machine to another computer, or you need to remove it completely and put it on another computer. This might reduce the performance with very large disks. This is used by default if you are using this virtual machine as a database server, so you need to choose the store virtual disk as a single file, because this will be for best performance. But as for our lab, we don't need best performance, so we'll use the other one and we leave it as a default. Okay, next, and then we will customize it. I don't need it to have first of all, here we will tell him to which network we needed the network adapter to be connected to. We will connect it to the VMnet 8, the one that we have been configuring a couple of seconds. Okay, so we need to connect to this one. Okay, this will make us go to the internet, and it will be 192.168.1.0. so this is it. We will connect it to this network. So let's continue, guys. Here we will choose the network, which is VMnet 8. Okay, that's the one that I have showed you a couple of seconds, and we will choose to have only one processor. So I need only this virtual machine to have one processor, and it will have 2 gigabyte of RAM. Okay, I'll make it only one processor. And remember that I need something here. We need to add another network adapter, because our DC Marvel 01 will have 2 network adapters, and we will make network teaming between them. But I have forgot to do this, but we will do it later, so remember this. Okay, and then finish. and then we will insert. So here we'll tell him edit the virtual machine, and then we will add, okay, the DVD. Okay, so your auto detect will have this DVD, and then we'll tell him use an ISO image, and we will insert the ISO image. So let's continue, guys. Here we will insert the DVD, or sorry, insert the ISO image. So here we'll do it, okay, okay, and then okay, and then we will power on the virtual machine. Here we will see an error, okay, it will not load the DVD, okay, just a moment. So here we can see that there is an error. It's telling that it's trying to start up, okay, so try to start up, okay, there is no system on the hard disk, so it is unsuccessful. There is no DVD in the DD-ROM, and in the DVD no DVD, or there is no DVD in the CD-ROM in my laptop. So, and he didn't find the ISO, so there is, or he find the ISO, but there is a problem. I'll show you how we can fix it, but just a moment. So here there is a problem because my DVD or my ISO image, it is UEFI. You need to change your BIOS booting from BIOS booting system from UEFI to BIOS. I will show you how this is done. So to solve this problem, we need to go and shut down the virtual machine, and then we need to go to the edit virtual setting, okay, so here, or where it will go, just a moment here. So we will go, and again we will go to the options, just a moment. Here we will go to the options, okay, and here we will check BIOS, okay, here we will check the BIOS. This will solve the problem. So let's go there, here, okay, we will check, okay, so we will go to the options, edit virtual machine setting, and we will choose BIOS, and then tell him okay. So this is the operating system firmware, okay, so this is the firmware of the virtual machine, okay. So this is different things. And here what we will do, here we will do another option called shared folders. This is a folder that will be linked between my host and my guest. So this will be a folder on my laptop, okay. I can share it with my virtual machine, so I can have like something like a connection or a file, or to link my part of my hard disk of my host to be available to the virtual machine. So I can transfer files between the virtual machine and the laptop. So this is called folder sharing. It will share a folder between your host, or the operating system of your host, or the operating system of my laptop with the operating system of the virtual machine, okay, and it will map it as a network drive, okay. So we'll do this now. This is a very good way, and this is one of the best options of Vmware Workstation Pro, to share a folder between your host and your guest, okay. This is not done easily with the Hyper-V. You need to go to your host and share a folder, and then go to your guest and access it. But this is done automatically here, or something like a simple and easy option to just a moment, to share this or to map it. Even it will, what it will do, it will share the folder for you. So you just choose the folder, it will share it and map it as a network drive. So here I want to share a folder and to be available for my virtual machine. So we'll do it. It will be on my D drive. So here it's important. I have a folder called important CDs. Okay, I tell him okay, I need to share this folder. So this is the host path and this is the name, and I enable this share, and I will show you all how this will be available when I install Windows Server 2019 on the virtual machine. We will see this folder available. So this is the different options. Okay, we will not go with all of them. I need only to install Windows. So here, as you see here, also this is Windows Server 2019. Remember that we have chosen when we create the virtual machine that the operating system will be Windows Server 2016. Okay, so they are the same, and this version of Vmware Workstation Pro doesn't contain the selection of Windows Server 2019, but in Windows or in Vmware Workstation Pro 16 it will contain the selection Windows Server 2019. So here, so let's continue, guys. Here we will continue, or we will work with installation of the Windows. Here this icon is for full screen, so you can have your virtual machine in full mode, full screen mode, or in less, or in window mode, and we will see how we can adjust the resolution of the virtual machine or the Windows inside the virtual machine. So let's continue. Here we will begin here, this one. So this is the startup. So here we will choose Windows Server 2019 Data Center, okay, KMS. So this will be activated online. Okay, we will not use the core because the KMS and the STD, this is with graphical interface. So if you choose the core, it will be only in a command prompt. So you use only the Windows Server 2019 KMS. So we will accept the license agreement, and we will tell him custom installation, and then we will have it two partitions. The first will be 60 gigabyte and the other will be 10. It's a best practice always to give more than 100 gigabyte for the C partition that will contain the operating system. So here we're having another partition. This is the D partition, and we will format it as NTFS, and then we will choose the second partition, which is 60 gigabyte, to install Windows on it. As I said before, it's a best practice to have the C partition to be more than 100 gigabyte if you need to install Windows 10. If you are using it on a Windows server or you install Windows Server, so you need to increase the space. So if you can make it 300 gigabyte, if you have your server, for example, has 1 tera or more, so you can increase the C partition space. So it is minimum to be 100 gigabyte or even 150 gigabyte. So this is for the Windows 10 workstations. As for the servers, it is need to be more, of course. So it is, I'm just installing the operating system. So now it has finished the operating system. It will prompt you to put a password for the first user on this Windows server, which is administrator. So you need to put a password for the administrator account. I will show you all this here. So this is the administrator account. It is a best practice. So here, this is the administrator account. This is the built-in administrator account. You will use this account to log into the Windows server. This should be disabled. Okay, after logging into the Windows, you need to disable this account and rename it from administrator to any other username and give it a strong password. And then if you need a user to have the same rights as the administrator has full rights on the operating system. So you can create another user, give it a name, except administrator of course, and put it in a group in the Windows called administrators. By putting the user in this local group, which is called administrator on this Windows server, it will be given, or you will be given the same rights as the administrator account. So you need to disable it and rename it and give it a strong password, so the hacker doesn't use this username. It is by default, all hackers know that there is a username by default called administrator, and most of us doesn't rename it or doesn't give it a strong password or even doesn't disable it. So you need to disable it as best practice. Okay, and the first thing to do after installing the Windows on a virtual machine, need to install something called Vmware Tools. This is our tools provided you by the Vmware Workstation Pro software. So by installing it, it will make the integration between your host and your guest more easy, and it will make other changes. It, for example, will adjust the display of the virtual machine. It will make the integration more easier between your host and your virtual machine, and it will do a lot of things. So it is a best practice if you are using Vmware Workstation Pro or even vSphere, is to install the Vmware Tools. So this is the second thing to do. So here we can see that if we can go a little bit further here, so here is it. We need to just I will put some shortcut or have some icons displayed on my desktop, and by default the Windows Server Manager console will appear automatically. Okay, so here we can go a little bit further here. So here we can see that we go to the local server, and then we need, the first thing to do is to enable something called remote desktop. So this option will enable us to remotely connect to this server, okay, from any place. If you didn't opt this option, you will not be able to remotely or to access this server remotely, and we will secure it so not anyone will be able to have a remote session with this server. Only a certain group in the Windows will be allowed for this. There is a group called remote users, so the remote users or the members of the remote users group will only be allowed to remotely connect to this server. So we will open this option, which is called remote desktop. So the first thing to do is to enable the remote desktop and allow remote connections to the computer. Okay, here we can see that he says that there is an exception. After enabling the remote desktop connection, it will tell the firewall to open the ports for the remote service. So the firewall will allow you to connect to this server. So the firewall is informed that the remote desktop is enabled on this workstation, or sorry, on this server, and to allow others from outside to connect to this server. And we can see here that it is allow connections only from computers running remote desktop with network level authentication. So you need to authenticate the user. The user should be authenticated, or it is allowed to access this server remotely. We can here select certain users to access this server, or select a group. We can choose it. Okay, so but by default there is a group called remote users. This is the only allowed group to access the server from outside. Okay, you can put users in this group, custom users or normal users. Anyway, you can choose what users can be able to remotely access this server. Okay, and by default the domain admins can access the servers remotely. It is in the remote users, or it is allowed to remotely access servers or any workstation in the domain. Okay, so let's do this, and then we need to change the name of the server to DC Marvel 01. So we will change it, and by the way, we have only one Ethernet card, or we have only one network card, so we need to add another one, and we need to change the name of the computer to DC Marvel 01. So here I think we can pass it real quickly because it's not here. So here we will change the name. We will check or click on the name, and then we go to change and give it a name. It's DC Marvel 01. Okay, so here you are preparing the server to be a domain controller, but first we are making some changes, and it tells us that we need to restart the server so the name will take effect. So the name of the machine will not be reflected unless we restart the machine. And then we pin this. I will pin the server manager console to the taskbar, and then I need to shut down this virtual machine and add the second network card so we can make the network teaming between them. Okay, So here we'll go to the virtual machine setting, okay. We will go and edit the virtual machine, and then we will add a second network card, and we will connect it to the same network, VMnet8. okay, so the two network cards are on the same network, so we will add another adapter, network adapter, and then tell him finish, and then connect it to the same network, okay, VM8. okay, so this is the network that we will connect all of our virtual machines to it. So we have two network cards. Now we will power on the virtual machine and then begin making the network teaming. So we can pass it real quickly here. We go there, okay, and then so we logged in, okay, with administrator, so we can go there again. Just a moment. So here we had logged in with administrator, and then what I'll do here, I need to install, so we'll go to install the VM tools. okay, so this is something very important. If you are working with Vmware Workstation Pro, you need to install the Vmware tools to increase the stability between the host and the guest, and to increase the flexibility of sharing between the host and the guest, and to do other things. So it's very important to install Vmware tools. So for example, one of the things, when you install the VM tools, it will adjust the resolution of the screen of the virtual machine automatically. It will install the drivers for this virtual machine, so we can see this in a moment. Anyway, so here this is it. We will double click on it to install the VM tools. This is very important. If you are working with Vmware Workstation Pro, you need to install the VMware tools directly, or after installing the operating system. okay, so now we'll go to the local server, and then we need to make network teaming. okay, so here we can see that the name is changed. It's DC Marvel 01. We have two Ethernets. Need to make network teaming, and then we give this teaming a name. And then during this, I need to have some icons on my desktop. I need to put this PC icon and control panel. Anyway, this is the network teaming. Here, when we maximize the window, here we see that Microsoft Server Data Center, we have two network cards with 1 GB of speed. okay, here another note: if you are using Hyper-V, this speed changes from 1 GB to 10 GB. This difference is because of the drivers of the network cards on the Vmware Workstation Pro and the Hyper-V. The Hyper-V have more, or have drivers that network drivers that are 10 GB of speed, but this Workstation Pro network drivers, or network card drivers, only 1 GB limitation. okay, so anyway, we will shoot them, and then we will make teaming. So here we'll make teaming between them, and we need here to take care, because when you make teaming, you need to choose certain options for this teaming. So add to a network team, so they will be all of these two network cards will have one network connection, not two network connection. We all know that every network card has a network connection, but when they are added, these two will be added in one network connection. So here, just a moment, here we can see there is an error, okay, saying that it cannot make the network teaming. Why is this? Because we have choose the load balance mode dynamic. It will only work with address hash. okay, I don't know what is the meaning of this, but I have discovered it when searching the internet. So you need, when you make network teaming, you need to choose switch independent and load balancing to be address hash. okay, and standby adapters, all of the adapters are working, so no, the two network cards will be working and will be active. Okay, so they are not one of them is standby, they will all be working. So you need to choose teaming mode, switch independent, and load balancing to be the address hash. Okay, so this is the error. It will be passed. We can go this here, so we can pass it real quickly. We will make it again. So what we will do here, we can see that if we choose it, okay, again, I think we need to choose it here again. Just a moment. Again, server manager. So just a moment here. Again. So I think the network teaming, let me show you all a little bit of problem here. So here, let me get back. So again. So here is the problem. Okay, said before, it's a problem here, but it will be rectified when we change it. Here is the VM Workstation Tools. We need to restart. So we have installed the VM Workstation Tools. We need to restart the machine, and then I have searched the internet for the error for the network teaming. As I said before, it is switch independent and address hash. I will show you all this when we open the server manager. So if you go to the local server again, here I need to tell, or to, in the manage server manager options, I do not need it to be restarted automatically. The server manager, I don't need this program or this console to open automatically. So I choose this option, not to start the server manager automatically, and then we will personalize these setting, or personalize the themes, okay, or the desktop icons to have certain icons to appear. So let's go a little bit further here. So here we will go to the desktop icons, themes, desktop icons, and then we'll have the computer, user files, and control panel, and network, all of them to appear. Okay, so we'll have themes, personalized themes, desktop icons, and then here we can see that I have choose switch independent address hash. So the load balance is address hash, and now these two are active and working. So the teaming has been done and it is okay. So we need to go to the teamed network connection and put our static IP address to this server, which will be 192.168.1.20. okay, so we need to do this now. So we'll go to the control panel, and then we'll make the category or the view to be small icons, and then we need to go to the network and sharing center, and then this is the teaming network, okay, team network connection, and then properties, and then we need to put the IP address, okay, IP version 4, which will be 192.168.1.20, and the default gateway will be the IP of my host, because I will be the gateway that will get them out to the internet, okay, 168.1.2, and we will test this. We will see if we have internet connection, okay, so we will see. So here by this I can communicate with both of the virtual machines that I will create, and they can get to the internet, okay. So we will check and see after that if we have internet connection. So here he said that you have a connection, so we'll tell him not to share and then close, and then we need to see if we have internet connection. So I open my Internet Explorer and try to see if I can access the internet. I will not access the internet because I don't have a DNS, okay, so I didn't put DNS in my connection, so he doesn't know how to get to the internet. If I put DNS, okay, I will be able to access the internet. We will solve this problem when we have our domain controller installed and we have our DNS. We will tell him if we need to get to the internet to put a DNS or to use the DNS server of Google, which is 8888. So this will be solved later. Okay, so anyway, you can see here that I can't get to the internet. This is it. So this is also a problem. What I will do, we will see if we go to the control panel and then go to the network and sharing center, and then we put a DNS here, I can get to the internet. Okay, so the default gateway is working. Okay, so here if I put a DNS, I can get to the internet. So properties, and then we need to put here, I put 888 for example, and then I can get to the internet. Okay, so this is very easy. Or even I can put my IP address of my default gateway. So let's continue, guys. Here when I put the DNS, so we will see that I can access the internet. If I open the Internet Explorer again, I will access it, so I can put in the DNS option or the DNS field, I can put my put the default gateway IP address. So I put www.google.com. So let's continue, guys. If you can see here that I can access the internet. Okay, so now this after putting the DNS, we will resolve this issue after configuring our domain controller and configuring our DNS. We will solve this issue. So I go there and remove the DNS. Okay, because I will have an internal DNS and I will direct it or configure it to forward packets to an outside DNS server, which will be, if I want to get the internet, he will forward the request to an external DNS server, which will be Google. I will configure it in my internal DNS, so don't worry about this. So here we have configured everything. I think we need to, now we have restarted the virtual machine. So after restarting it, okay, this is the again, so I have restarted the virtual machine because the Vmware Workstation Tools need a restart. Okay, so now we can see if you open the virtual network setting, okay, we can see that this is our network, the one that you are connected to, and we can see here by change the setting, we can see here that we have the bridged one, we have the NAT one, this is the one that you are connected to, and it's getting to the internet. If we go to the options here, this is the one. Here we can see that I am taking the range of 192.168.1.0. this is the subnet, and I've disabled the DHCP service because I will install the DHCP on my virtual machine, and it is connected to this one, and it is sharing my IP address, okay, and it will get to the internet. So this is the second one, and this is the one that you are connected to, the one that I have been discussing in the beginning of the lab. Okay, and we can see here that you can tell him to put some DNS. He can get the DNS from your ISP provider, or you can put a custom DNS. Okay, so here is the IP subnet. The gateway, it is the IP of my, I think this is the IP of my virtual machine, of my host, or this is another one, or it's a virtual gateway. Okay, but anyway, so here we can see that the resolution of the screen, it is spread, or it is changes after installing the Vmware Workstation Pro. So here now we'll begin adding the Active Directory domain services, and then we'll promote the server to be a domain controller. So now we open the server manager and then manage, and then add roles and features, and then we will tell him next, and then next, and then we will tell him next also. Then we'll have Active Directory domain services, and then add features, next, and then we will tell him next, and then next, and then install. We can tell him to restart the destination server if it is required. Tell him yes, and then install. And then after finishing the installation of the Active Directory domain services, we will promote the server to be a domain controller. And then we tell him we make a new forest or a new domain, which will be marvel.local. This is the first thing. Okay, the second thing, if you need to add additional domain controllers, this is the option that you will use. If you are sorry, this is if you need to add two domains. You have a domain, you need to add a new domain, or this if you need to add an additional domain controller. So we will have a new forest marvel.local, and then the forest function level will be 2016, and this will be a domain. This will be a DNS server and the global catalog. Okay, and this is the password for directory service restore mode. So we'll have all of this. This will be a DNS server and the global catalog, and this is the password. We put the password of directory service restore mode, and then next, and then next, and then this is the NetBIOS name. We can use this. Okay, or pass it real quickly. This is Marvel, and then next. Okay, and this after that he will tell us the location of the database of the Active Directory and the logs for the Active Directory and the sysvol folder that will contain important files concerning the Active Directory, the group policies that will be applied to the Active Directory or to the domain. It will be in the sysvol folder, and a lot of things. So this is very important locations. I tried to move it to the D, but I changed my mind. I put it in the C folder. So this is different folders, important folders: database folder, log folder, sysvol folder, and then next, and then install. It will take a little bit of time. So now after a couple of times or a couple of minutes, we need to install or promote the server. Then we install or promote the server. So now after doing this, it will be promoted, or the server will be promoted as a domain controller and as a DNS and a global catalog. So now we need to sign out after installing or promoting the server to be a domain controller and the DNS. You need to restart the server. So now here we can see that after restarting, it will be Marvel, or it will be Marvel slash administrator. So we'll tell him this is like Control Alt Delete. This is an icon like pressing Control Alt Delete this icon. Then you can see this Marvel administrator. So we will log in, and then we need to change the DNS. Okay. Setting, okay, to put the IP of the domain controller. I will show all this, but here we will log in first. Just a minute, guys. So let's continue, guys. Here we will we have installed or promoted the server to be a domain controller. We need to go to the network connection setting of the teaming card and change the DNS, okay, TCP protocol, and then we need to change this to 192.168.1.20. by the way, 127.0.0.1, it is the same as typing 192.168.1.20, but because I will make an alternative DNS, so I need it to be more clear for me. So you can leave 127.0.0.1, but because I will add another DNS, so I need this to be more clear for me and not to be confused, okay? So now we have done our I think our video is finished. So I think we can go there and complete. So we will shut down, or what we'll do now, sorry, here we will need to make a custom console. So after changing the DNS, what we will do, we need to go and make a custom console. This is a console that we create to put different consoles in it. So for example, if you need to open the console for the Active Directory to do something, and you need to open the console for the DNS to do something, and you need to open the console of the group policy management to do something, all of this we will put them in one console, in one window. So we will type run, then mmc, and then we will add the different consoles in one place. So we'll add and remove snap-in, and then we will add the Active Directory users and computers, okay? So this is a way that you can handle a lot of consoles from one place. So you don't need to open a console, a separate console with a separate window. So you will manage everything from one place. So here we will add the Active Directory users and computers, and then the DNS, and then we'll add the group policy management, and then we will add later we will add the DHCP console. But here we have added everything. Then we need to save the console, give it a name, and we put it on the desktop. Okay, so this is it, I think. Let's tell him okay. The event viewer, okay, so we'll add also, you can add a lot of things actually in this console. So tell him okay, and then okay, and then we will tell him file save as. We will save this console on the desktop, okay, and we will name it Marvel console. So in the upcoming video we will begin configuring reverse DNS lookup zones. We'll begin creating the different Active Directory users, groups, computers using PowerShell scripts. Okay, I think this is the end of the video, but just we will open the console to make sure everything is working. So this is it. This is the end of our video. Okay, we have added everything, okay, and this is the Marvel. I think we can go there again. We can show you all that this is the Marvel domain. So here we can see that, can have a little bit of here, okay. So here this is the Marvel, okay, and then this is, we will add different computers and groups here in this under the Marvel domain. So I hope this video is informative for you all, and would like to thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.